The Milwaukee Bucks overcame an 18-point deficit plus a fake foul at the end of regulation to win by 7 in overtime. Giannis had one of those performances, y'all. One of those ones that you will remember what you were doing when you saw him drop that 59 and put the team on his back. We're going to discuss all of that plus more on the other side of the intro.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What it do? Welcome to Locked On Bucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Camille Davis. You can catch me weekly on the Technical Foul podcast, as well as the Pack a Day podcast. And joining me is Frank Madden, founder of BrewHoop.com and longtime voice of the pod. And we appreciate you for tuning in and making Locked On Bucks your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. Plus, we're also in newsletter form. Head over to lockedondaily.com and sign up for the Locked On Bucks Daily newsletter, your one-stop shop for ultimate team and league coverage right to your inbox every single day. So make sure you head to lockedondaily.com and sign up for that Locked On Bucks newsletter. Today's episode is also sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. Now, Frank, I'm not going to lie. The game was looking a little shaky at certain points. Halftime, I was like, I don't know. It looked a little dark in the third quarter. Bucks got it going. I was sitting there like, man, Justin and Frank got the good juju. They got the win. I'm gonna have to come back, talk about this loss, this and that. But crazy third quarter for the Bucks. They responded with a 38-24 third quarter. Then they had the sequence in the fourth quarter when Ron Holland was quote unquote fouled on the last shot there. Had 2 free throws to be able to win the game. He missed both to send the game to overtime because, as we all know, ball don't lie. And then you get to overtime. You got Giannis going crazy. You got Brook showing up, but Giannis is the story here. 59 points for Giannis on the evening, an NBA season high for the league in itself. Plus, he had 14 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. This was one of those special Giannis games.
Yeah, I mean, where does this rank, Camille? I mean, this is definitely a top 5 all-time Giannis game.
Yeah.
You know, I think we know the Game 6 2021
sure.
performance. That'll always be the top of the heap. But I think this game is right up there with the 64-point game. It's up there with, you know, any other game that you can think of. And it's just one of those games, like you said, you know, we podcast after every game.
Yep.
And a lot of nights it's like, oof, you know, especially the first few weeks of this season.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched this game. My wife's out of town. I watched the game with my daughter Tilly, who's 6, and I posted a picture of us. She had her Giannis jersey on. I got my Giannis jersey. I'm too old to have a proper jersey, Camille. But yeah, I mean, this is, you know, it's like it's a November regular season game against the Detroit Pistons, and everyone, you know, if you read the headlines, the NBA product is bad and regular season games don't matter. And, you know, for you and me and everybody out there listening, you know, our everydayers in particular, and probably on a day like this, maybe some people who aren't everydayers, right, but got to see something special and want to share in that, right? Like, it's a privilege that we get to talk about this game, but more importantly, Giannis Antetokounmpo. And, you know, it's just like you just can't help but feel something a bit different when you see him do what he did tonight. 22 out of what the 20, what did they have? Did they have 24 in the first quarter?
24 points in the first quarter for Giannis.
I mean, you know, just carrying this team when they had nothing in that first quarter, most of the first half, when they looked dead in the water early in the third quarter. I remember thinking, I mean, I'm almost tweeted it. It's like, so what version of the Bucks do we see here? Do we see a team that, you know, tries to lock down and do something, or do we see a team that buckles under the pressure and just kind of mails in the game? And second night of the back-to-back for both teams. Pistons played at home in overtime last night as well. Obviously Bucks, you know, under strength with Dame and Giannis. or Damon Khris out, this
And then
was just
Bobby too in this one.
and Bobby, late scratch with Bobby. Some people may argue that was, maybe less of a factor, but certainly from a depth perspective and a scoring perspective, right? It was brutal watching this team in the first half, but the energy just changed in that third quarter. Some shots started to go down, and what we can talk about: Brook Lopez, Gary Trent, Taurean Prince.
Yep.
I mean, it's amazing what happens when somebody else does literally anything, Camille. Like it's felt like for like all season that there's been so little help, and that's why the offense in particular has struggled. So to see Giannis just absolutely doing everything, I think he was 7-11 from mid-range. Obviously just dominant in the paint, attacking the rim, 16 of 17 at the foul line. I don't know if he had any assists in the first half because literally nobody could make a shot.
It was all on him, yeah.
And he ends up with 7 assists, the 3 blocks, the massive block on that alley-oop attempt in overtime. He should have had a block on the last play of regulation.
Yep.
And it's these games. I mean, it's so fragile, right? Bucks should have lost this game if you just look at that last play. They didn't deserve to lose, but Ron Holland should have made one of those free throws. Bucks had no timeouts. They should have lost. And I'm sure you and everybody else was like watching this and just feeling like, as fans, we just got robbed, right? We just saw our team get robbed. So for the basketball gods to say this ball will not lie, this ball shall not lie, and to give the Bucks that second life, and then to see them come out, Giannis with the incredible block. I mean, that sequence where Giannis delivers that incredible block, I mean, it made me think of the DeAndre Ayton Sun block.
Finals, yeah.
A little bit different situation, but in terms of just like bang, bang, violent type of play. And then for Brook to take that trail 3, I was like,
the audacity. The audacity in that situation for that shot. Crazy.
Marcus was talking about like slowing it down, and Brook's like, F it, bombs away. And hey,
Giannis coming to hit the 3. It was I couldn't believe what was happening.
Yeah, I mean, it really was like the basketball god said, like, no, this Giannis performance, this deserves a win. Bucks fans, you've been through enough here early in the season. We're gonna, we're not gonna do you like that. Just every time they needed something in overtime, what was Giannis 5 for 5? He delivered mid-ranger after mid-ranger. He seals it with that just blow by on Tobias Harris and a dunk. Just really special stuff. And I think again, I tweeted about it earlier. I think he had the 4 blocks last night. I think he's got 12 blocks in his last, 9 blocks in his last 4 games. Now he's got 12 blocks in his last 5 games. Had the steals too. Hasn't had a lot of steals this year, but a couple of steals. Also late in OT, he got into it with Cade on the sideline, nearly forces a turnover on Cade, buckling down, playing the defense there. So, just bringing that impact defensively in addition to the otherworldly stuff that he's able to do as a creator, and with his immense skill, thank you very much, on offense.
No, that's right.
Yeah, it was just put it up there, hang it in the loop. That was just an all-time performance, and you nailed it. We're all going to remember that game forever. When we think about Giannis in Milwaukee, that game will be one where we'll remember where we were. And I am thankful I got to watch it with my daughter, and she got to experience that. I got to explain to her what ball don't lie means. I don't know if she really understood it. This was after I tweeted ball don't effing lie. I left out the,
had to censor it at home,
colorful part. Yeah. So yeah, it was, I hope everybody else got to enjoy it as much as I did. And I'm sure you did too, Camille, and everybody who got into that arena. You could tell the MVP chants after the game was over. Giannis doing the interview with Melanie Ricks. This meant something to Giannis, and again, like, one game is not going to like turn around the Bucks season, right? It's going to have to be stacking effort and doing it every night. But I thought they showed a ton of character tonight, and took them a while to start playing at high level, but they really brought it. And again, yeah, you just hope that this kind of builds kind of
Yeah.
some continued momentum, and hopefully you start to get healthier, and you can maybe have a little less drama in some of these games. But man, a little drama is pretty damn awesome when it goes your way.
It is, especially when you've been going through some drama that you didn't like, and then it finally turns. I felt like the play two that stood out to me. I mean, Giannis was doing his thing throughout it, but I think it was in the third quarter when Isaiah Stewart just grabbed him out the air for the
Oh,
flagrant two, got tossed out the game. I was like, this could be one of those plays where it changes the course of the game as well, because that was amidst that Bucks third quarter run where they're trying to get back into it. Giannis got 2 free throws that he made both of. They got the ball back. Gary Trent Jr. hit like a floater. Then it's a 4-point game at that point in the Pistons' favor. The Bucks keep rolling. And yeah, it might not, it's my hyperbole because we just got done watching it, but this felt like one of those games that could propel a team forward after having a tough start. Again, you got to see them stack the victories, stack the performances. We've seen them, have great one-offs, but the fact that they had this type of effort, especially on Giannis's back, the 5th game in 7 nights for the Bucks, 2nd game of a back-to-back, just the effort being shorthanded, even if it's against the Pistons, a Pistons team that was also without some key guys on their side as well, but also not a Pistons team that we've seen necessarily in years past. Like, they're a bit better what we saw before. And I quickly thought that Malik Beasley was going to have a revenge game, but Giannis was able to get the last laugh on Bees.
Yeah, he did. It just, it just didn't end up with a win, but he pretty much
Yeah.
did everything else. But Camille, I
was
was
nervous.
deathly afraid. On that last play of regulation, I was like, oh God. First off, everybody was thinking, don't give up the alley-oop, which they gave up last night, or they got last night against the Heat. The second thing I was thinking was, don't let Malik hit a dagger game winner against us, because he was great. I mean, especially when the first half when Gary Trent was just continuing to look totally anonymous, and Malik, he had 27 points, 26 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. I mean, that's literally one of the best games of certainly the last couple of years for Malik. He was awesome, played 44 minutes. He was jibber jabbering the entire game. Had a nice moment with Brook and Giannis after the game. Exchanged jerseys with Brook, which was cool to see. It's like revenge. It's like the Bucks couldn't pay you anyway, so it's not like it was.
You got a pay increase on your side.
Exactly. So yeah, this was all around win-win. We got to see our boy Malik hit some shots, but ultimately we got the last laugh here for the Bucks, and it was one of those games where it was not the same guys that did it last night either, which I thought was another interesting thing, right? Giannis had to play a totally different style game than last night, but they got some guys that have been struggling really came through, and you just hope that this can kind of be a catalyst for the team, as you were alluding to, but also for the likes of a Gary Trent Jr. and Brook Lopez too, whose offense has been just so brutal.
So good to see him,
and Brook
especially
was
get some
awesome
of those threes to fall. Like, it was really good to see Brook get some of those threes to fall. But he's someone I want to highlight as well, because as we mentioned, Giannis was doing a lot of the heavy lifting himself, and I just kept saying someone else has to step up. Someone else has to step up. And Brook Lopez is somebody who answered that call for the Bucks on both sides of the ball. So want to dive into his performance a bit more when we come back after this. I am such a fan of Game Time when it comes to having to purchase a ticket for any event, whether that's a sporting event. If I'm going to wrestling, like WWE SmackDown is in town on Friday, I'm checking Game Time to see what them tickets looking like, because I gotta pay a tribute to my tribal chief Roman Reigns when he's in town. But listen, whatever it is that you're looking for, Game Time is going to have you covered. Plus, they have a feature, Game Time Picks, which makes getting tickets even easier, because they filter out all the fluff. So all that you can see is incredible deals on the best seats. So you don't even have to waste extra time searching through plenty of tickets. And I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again because I love this feature so much. Being able to see the view from my seat before I buy the ticket, need that, especially when it's arena that I'm not familiar with. That's one of my favorite features. So make sure you download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Brook Lopez, let's give the man some of his flowers here, especially after the last couple of games that he has been having. Brook Lopez showed up in this game against the Pistons, 29 points, 5 of 8 from 3, 8 rebounds in this game, 3 steals, 5 blocks. 5 blocks for Brook Lopez, and that one he had on that Cade dunk attempt in like the fourth quarter, that was the one for me. And to see again the emotion that came out of Brook in that situation. Like normally when you see Brook emote, he's mad at a referee, but this was a time where he's emoting.
There were a few tonight, yeah.
Yeah. But this time, it was just like a big play. He knew how important it was, and to see that emotion from him, it was really, really cool. And just again, the Bucks needed somebody else to step up without Dame, without Khris, without Bobby, 3 guys who you really count on for shot creation and some points. And Brook Lopez answered that call.
Yeah, and look, I think myself, I mean, really, all of us, you and Justin as well. I think this is, we always talk about this as sort of a Khris Middleton podcast. I think this is also a podcast that appreciates the contributions of Brook Lopez and what he does. And look, defensively, of course, there's matchups that don't work well with Brook. We've seen a few of them so far this year, but by and large, let me say it again, Brook Lopez is so essential to any chance of this team to defending at a high level. We saw it again tonight. Cade struggles from an efficiency standpoint. I know he was 11 of 30 at one point. He took an absolute ton of shots.
35 points on 34 shots or something like that.
Let me had to take an absolute ton of shots. Yeah. And, credit to, I think, 2 people. I think Andre at the point of attack obviously put in a really, really good shift, especially in the second half, pressuring him. And then Brook, right? I mean, the block he had on Cade at the summit on that turnover is kind of the highlight play. Kind of left-handed block. Cade was just like, screw it, I'm going to try to dunk on you. And Brook's like, no. Man.
He's like, nah.
And he also got him, I think, at least a couple other times in this game. And Cade's a really crafty guy, sort of probing on pick and roll, using that length that he has. He's obviously very big for a primary ball handler. Mm-hmm. And he's savvy, he's young, but he knows how to get to his spots. And I thought Brook did a great job of using that size and limiting what they can do. And so I think defensively, I will say people kind of slandering Brook for his defense. I mean, it's like, guys, I get it. Sometimes you shouldn't play Brook in certain situations, like the Cat game, right, in New York. But by and large, I mean, this guy is the anchor of the good things that happen defensively for this team. Giannis is obviously, as we've been saying, has really stepped up big time as well. The 2 of them together have been awesome of late. But yeah, his offensively, Brook has sucked. Okay, Brook has been a huge disappointment for him early. Year. Exactly, he's been a huge disappointment this year. No argument. 2-point shooting, 3-point shooting, he just has not found a rhythm, not found a comfort level. Games where they've needed that ancillary scoring, he has, not been an active participant. And it's really hurt them offensively. So we know what he's capable of. I mean, yeah, he's old, but he's still has the same touch. It's not like his offense is predicated on quickness or something.
Right.
So you hope that 5 of 8 3-point shooting tonight, getting to his spots, getting those little pick and roll short rolls, the free throw line, like one-handed floater shots that he's so good at. You hope that this is him kind of beginning to break out a little bit. We thought maybe it was happening last night. Didn't really happen. And instead, second night, he played 40 minutes tonight on the second night of the back-to-back. I mean, that's impressive stuff. He's, again, knock on wood, he's been an Iron Man with the exception of that back injury season. The guy just plays every night. And, he was huge, right? And even that trail 3 shot in overtime, which seemed like a bad shot, ended up being just a huge energy changer. And so again, Brook's not going to do this every night, but this is what you need on random nights when you're missing guys. And hopefully, it sounded like in Doc post game, it sounded like they thought that Dame was going to play today. So hopefully Dame comes back next game. And there's a couple of random things Dame just mean Dame and Giannis. It's like shut up.
No, we're not doing that.
Dame and Giannis and Khris, they were awesome last year together in terms of results. We know that it feels like there's more that they can do together. Absolutely, right? There's more, I think, that they can kind of begin to exploit and build more chemistry, all that. But they need him if they're going to do anything. And I think tonight, if anything, that first half showed just how freaking hard it can be when you've got just Giannis in a cloud of dust, right? And people I kept people saying like, oh my God, like why is Pat Connaughton out there? Why
They
is
didn't have
he
any
getting
other
the ball?
options.
Yeah, guys, I mean, seriously, like, look, I like Pat. I have a bit of a soft spot for Pat. Appreciate what he did for the championship. But it's the reality, guys. Like, none of these other dudes can like run a dribble handoff with Giannis. Like, it's really sad. Like all they should do if they got like a day of practice, like, can we just practice that with all these guys? Like Prince, like Gary Trent, actually, I think he caught Brook on a decent pass on pick and roll, and Gary actually got into the lane on a couple pick and rolls and actually got to his floater and hit a couple shots, which we need to talk about Gary as well.
We
which
definitely
was awesome
will.
to see. But yeah, it's just like nobody else can just like do like the most basic like dribble, get a slight edge, and like kick up. But like these guys cannot do that. They are so limited. Like nobody can dribble and pass on this team other than the like $30 million superstar, like the top three guys. And so when two of them are missing, it's rough. And so again, like Pat didn't have some incredible performance tonight or anything like that, but you look at the box score, what was he, plus 24 or something like that?
Yeah.
He
Team
only took
high,
7 shots. Yeah, exactly. 6 points, hit a couple threes, had a block on Cade, 2 assists, whatever. But again, like they actually did like need in the first half, especially. I think were Giannis, Brook, and Pat the only guys that scored in the first half, or I think maybe somebody else scored 2 points.
I think someone else scored in the first half.
Yeah, it was
But
terrible.
it was bare bones.
It was terrible. But yeah, I mean, second half was totally different. And you look at the bench. Pat, only 8 guys played tonight. Pat plus 24, Gary Trent plus 18, 34 minutes, which had to feel great for him.
Yeah.
And Andre 31 minutes plus 23. Which again, obviously most of his stuff was defensive, but again, you just don't know who's gonna
pop for you
on any given night.
Got to make sure that everybody's getting the ball movement is happening, that guys are getting the opportunity, and then see who shows up with it. And one last Brook Lopez thought before we move into the next segment as well. The 3 balls. Like I was actually just having a conversation with somebody earlier today who was saying that they don't want Brook Lopez taking any more threes. And I was like, I know it's been a cold start to the season for Brook. It has. Like we admit, it's been a poor shooting start, but we know he's a better shooter than what we have seen thus far. And one thing about Brook with his slow feet, a lot of times he is going to be that trailer. So a lot of times he's able to walk into some pretty good looks from 3. So like that's an aspect of the game that helps this Bucks team, a Bucks team that has needed to get more threes up. They didn't do as many as they did against I'm blanking that quick when they played last night. Toronto, yes. Like not 56 threes in this game, but like enough to make sure you're keeping the other team honest. So other guys who stepped up. We mentioned Taurean, Prince, Gary Trent Jr. Got to talk a bit more about them, because when you look at who played a lot of minutes in this one, we mentioned Brook had 40. Giannis had 44 minutes, but the team leader in minutes was Taurean Prince with 45. So talking about his impact as well as you probably expect that. Taurean Prince leading the team.
I had no idea that Taurean Prince played 40 freaking minutes tonight, or 45 freaking minutes. That's crazy. Those are Tim Frazier numbers, Camille. Shout out to Tim Frazier, 53 minutes against the Atlanta Hawks in 2019 or whatever that was.
Yep.
All the everydayers, the hardcores. Yeah.
That's what Prince was on here. So let's talk a bit more about that when we come back. Make sure you head on over to FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win that bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app also gives you everything that you need to place live bets on the NFL in one place. So if you get an idea or a hunch middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you're placing your bet. So visit fanduel.com to join today. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's fanduel.com. So never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Frank. Taurean Prince, as mentioned, 45 minutes in this game. He was 6 of 16 from the field, 3 of 8 from 3 points. So if you look at that, 15 points, you might be like, but what? Like, how is that something to, talk highly about? But I think about that stretch in the fourth quarter for Taurean Prince in particular, where he scored 5 straight, had an opportunity to, extend the Bucks lead before the fake foul that wasn't with that 3 opportunity that he had. But I mean, he got hot at a point in the game where the Bucks, again, just needed some points. He was out there playing some defense. Again, led the team in minutes. You had Gary Trent Jr., who, again, started the game off slow, but in the third quarter had 8 of his 11 points there. It was like 2 of 2 from 3. Just looked like he had a really good rhythm in the third quarter, getting some playing time. Finally played 34 minutes for Gary Trent Jr. today after a game yesterday where he got pulled pretty quick coming back from that back spasm injury. So to see him in the rotation, to see him contribute, and then also to see Gary Trent Jr. after the game, getting more shots up, just making sure that he can stay ready, get ready, and be ready. It was really good to see Taurean Prince, Gary Trent Jr., even DeLon Wright coming in the game for his spell and getting 8 assists during his time out there on the floor. Seeing those Bucks free agent additions from the summer make an impact.
Yeah, I mean, Gary Trent, I don't know if anybody's had as frustrating a season as Gary Trent. I mean, you think about kind of where his head's probably been at the last few days, right? Like Bucks fans, obviously, like we've been very disappointed in Gary Trent. I mean, for a guy who was a minimum signing, like expectations are pretty high, right, of this guy. And of course they're high for him too, right? I mean, this is his chance to prove that he's a big money player in the NBA, and to come into this game shooting God knows what he was shooting. Was he shooting like 29% or something like that? Like
Yeah, it was bad. It was under 30.
Yeah. And I think he was 3 for his last 21. I think he played 8 minutes in the first half and didn't take a shot, which, Doc was joking after the game that he was kind of telling him pregame, hey, just take a damn shot, And normally I reserve those jokes for DeLon Wright and, of course, Ajax and Ryan Rollins, right? We talk about how those guys don't take enough shots. Gary Trent historically has not been a guy that you have to ask to take shots, but it has felt like these last couple of games that he's been gun shy because the ball has not been going in. And to see that first 3 go down in the third quarter tonight, and then another, and then getting to a spot for a little floater in the lane, which he'd been getting a lot of those right before he kind of got benched, and they were just not going in, and it just looked like he did not have any confidence. So he was probably the guy that I was, obviously Giannis and Brook, those are my guys. So of course, happy for them doing, the great games that they had. But Gary Trent, I just felt good for him. I mean, I don't, whatever, as a fan, I don't have a lot of history with him. Obviously he's new to the team, but you can tell, I mean, he's been going through it, had the back spasm stuff. Who knows what impact that, or the elbow thing, who knows how much any of that could be impacting him or has impacted him. But they need this guy. I mean, they need this guy to be pretty good. They don't need him to be, an 18 point per game guy, but they need him to do what at least our friend Malik Beasley did last year, or some reasonable facsimile. And so for him to look more like that guy, and I thought the defensive effort was good too. And just, again, it was just kind of encouraging to see him just look comfortable in sort of dribble handoff plays and be a guy that can just be a threat off the bounce a little bit, right? He's not like getting the rim and dunking on guys or anything like that, but just a guy that can get to his spots, and did it a few times tonight when they really needed somebody to do that. That was important. And so, yeah, you just hope that this can, again, start to kind of turn the wheel a little bit, and hopefully he can be the guy that we thought he could be. And look, if he ends up, stealing some minutes from Ryan Rollins or, AJ or something like that, who, AJ, this was a mean regression 24 hours for AJ, right? 4-14 last night. Was he 0 for? Did he make a shot tonight? 1 for 4, 0 for 5. I don't remember what he was, but
1 for 4 from 3, 1 to 5 from the field. His first 2-point attempt of the season. A block
53 attempts from 3 before he took a single 2, which is the most to start a season ever. I mean, look, he'll have games like that. So I think we all love to think that he's going to shoot, 60% from 3 every night and give you 15 points and solid defense. Sometimes it's not going to happen. And so, it was great to see Gary be there to pick them up, and how Doc kind of figures out, how you get Gary minutes while still making sure that AJ and Ajax and whatever else will get their minutes. I'll worry about that some other day, Camille, but I just want Doc to have like difficult decisions to make. Can we please have Doc having to choose between multiple guys that are actually playing well, right? That would be a problem that we haven't had so far this season is the coaching staff having to choose between guys that are playing well rather than, trying to see like who's going to
have the hot hand.
Be able to like, fog a mirror because they're dead and, like on their way to the coroners, right? So it's just, again, last night, important to get the win, but you didn't feel great about that, right? The offense still looked like they were in mud most of the game. And tonight, I mean, the offense was in mud for the first half, but they end up putting up a 117 rating. And obviously again, you just get multiple guys start to look like the NBA players that they are. Oh, amazingly, you start to look better and you start to score points. Things go better.
Simple concept.
Having Giannis score 59 points, okay, that'll also make your offense look a little bit better. But yeah, it was just a very much needed win and a roller coaster. And, I'm sure there's like some big thing that we completely forgot about that, at the point of the game might have mattered. I didn't really, you mentioned the beef stew flagrant, which was, I mean, that's just a terrible.
Just not a basketball play.
It's not a basketball play. I mean, the first thing I thought of, I mean, it was different, but first thing I thought of was Embiid pulling Mitchell Robinson down by his legs in that playoff game last year. Obviously, this is different. You're pulling him by the shirt. But, I mean, you saw it, right? The way Giannis went down. I mean, that is a dangerous play. We saw Giannis miss multiple playoff games because he fell on his tailbone against the Heat a couple years ago. And thankfully, as bad as it looked the way he fell, he's Giannis, and he gets right back up, hits both free throws, and just continued the comeback. But yeah, I mean, important, I think, from an energy perspective, right? I think it kind of galvanized the Bucks a bit. And Doc mentioned in the press conference, hurts them because I thought Stewart was the only guy who looked like he could physically
stay with Giannis.
Yeah. And we've seen that, right? Like when Giannis got ejected on that stupid second technical a year ago.
Yeah.
It was partly because, Stewart blocked him like once or twice, and he was kind of like going back and forth with him a little bit. So, obviously Giannis was having a monster game and nobody could really stop him, but, Stewart's, he's strong, and he, I think has enough quickness that Giannis can't just blow right past him, and he's strong enough that Giannis can't just bully him. So it definitely was a play that mattered on a couple of fronts, but I'm absolutely correct that was a flagrant 2. I mean,
absolutely
complete non-basketball play, dangerous, and just like if you don't eject somebody for that, like,
then what are we doing?
What are we doing exactly? What sport are we playing? Right? It's just it doesn't belong in the game, and we'll see. I'm curious. I feel like people always overstate the likelihood of suspensions when things happen in NBA games. Like it's not easy to get suspended for even one game in the NBA. Like you got to throw a punch or do something.
Yeah, be a Draymond.
Yeah, exactly. I am curious. I am definitely curious if he ends up getting like a 1-game suspension or something like that, because obviously it's a flagrant 2 and super dangerous. And I think we should send a message, as a league, that pulling guys down by their jerseys while they're going up to dunk, I mean, that's just like totally reckless, and you don't need it. And I think he's had, was it with LeBron or he's had some
he's had some like, a few scuffles
on-court things. Yeah, this is not just a Giannis thing. So But I also give a ton of. I'm really glad the way Giannis kind of handled it. Like he was just
Same.
like
Just walked off.
just
Took
walked
his
off.
time, collected himself.
Yeah. Torian Prince kind of got into his face. It wasn't like the best response from the Bucks. Let's say it like
The
this.
teammates didn't,
If
we didn't have
Bobby,
the
if Bobby had been, if Bobby had been on the floor, I think you would have gotten like a much more appropriate response. But yeah, we'll take the win.
The win is important. The win is important.
I'm not going to quibble too much with
the first win streak of the season, Frank. The first win streak of the season for the Bucks. 2 games in a row. They have the Charlotte Hornets on Saturday to try to make it 3 in a row.
Oh God, please beat the Hornets.
The Hornets, that's a team that, especially when LaMelo was healthy, that's a team that always seems to give the Bucks some fit. So
your team, you picked them in our over/under draft.
Yeah, I sure did
for the season. So Camille is all in on Charles Lee and the new Hornets.
Yeah, the Charles Lee boost. So we'll see how that goes, but we'll be back with more Locked On Bucks tomorrow to, of course, talk a bit more about this game, update you guys on some league news, preview that Charlotte Hornets game, and then just get you ready for the weekend. So we're going to leave out here on this dub. 2 straight wins for the Bucks in a row. The now 4-8 Bucks are 2 games out of that 3 seed in the East. But no, seriously, y'all, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate all the everydayers. As a reminder, check out the Locked On Bucks newsletter at lockedondaily.com. For Frank and myself, we'll catch you later.